Hello there, I am Dr. Bree, and I'm so excited for you to unlock your pelvis with me. This is a really great workout for anyone who has stiff hips and or a tight pelvic floor. I'm going to help you reconnect to your core and increase your mobility. And we're just going to do a few slow moves of each exercise. You don't need any equipment. We're going to begin lying down. So for this first move, bring one leg up and then the other. And we're going to begin by stirring the pot. So you're simply bringing your knees together and apart as you breathe. This is loosening up the hips in the hip socket and just bringing the knees together and apart. Keep breathing smoothly and steadily. Now, one leg down and then the other leg down. And I want you to stabilize your right leg with your hands. Don't let the right leg move, but your left leg is going to drop out to the side and then come back up. So make sure your core is stable and strong. You're going to gently activate your core muscles for this exercise. Now stabilizing your left leg and dropping your right leg out and coming back up. You should feel your core muscles, your pelvic floor, your abdominal muscles lighting up to stabilize as you drop one leg out and in. Now we're going to mobilize the core. So think about your low back and your pubic bone for this exercise. Your pubic bone is going to go up toward the sky, and then it's going to go down toward the floor. Notice your pubic bone lifting up toward the sky as you rock your pelvis one way. And then your pubic bone goes down toward the floor as you rock your pelvis the other way. So it's a pelvic rock, rocking and rolling. You might also notice your low back arching off the floor, and then your low back pressing down into the floor. This is loosening up your low back. It's loosening up all of the muscles of your hips, and it's so good for you. So now on this next pelvic rock, I want you to rock all the way up, lifting your bum up off the ground. Now you're going to drop your lower ribs down and up as your bum stays lifted off the ground. So lower ribs come down and then they come up. This is a very strange and subtle move. Go ahead and lower all the way down now. We're going to do it again. So if you didn't get that the first time, we'll do it again. Go ahead and arch your low back and then press your low back down and raise yourself up, one vertebrae at a time, up off the ground. Keep your hips lifted, your butt is strong, and then lower your low ribs down toward the ground and then lift back up. So your lower ribs are going down toward the ground and then they're lifting back up. Again, very subtle. You're articulating your spine as your ribs drop down and come back up. Now, drop one vertebrae down at a time like you're lowering your spine like a string of pearls down toward the floor. This takes practice. If you don't get it right away, keep working on it. Now, you're going to think about a different type of pelvic mobility now, where your hip is moving up toward your armpit on one side. Okay, so now lift the other side. One hip goes up toward your armpit and the other hip goes down. So it's kind of like a tick-tock type motion, like you're bringing one hip up toward your armpit and the other hip goes down and then switching sides. So hitching up your hip on one side and then hitching up your hip on the other side. Notice how one side kind of strengthens and contracts and the other side stretches. So keep going with this little tick-tock of your hips. One lifts, the other lowers, and then the other side lifts. Keep going. Just loosening things up. And like I said, all of this takes practice. So if you're very, very stiff, just keep working on it and you'll get better and better. Now come to your side. Both knees are bent and I want you to stay on your side. So one hip stacked on top of the other. Flex the foot of your top leg and then you're going to draw a circle with that knee and foot of that top leg, drawing a circle in one direction, nice and slow. Feel this really moving the hip in the socket, and then go the other way with your circle. Take it slow. Like I said, we're just doing a few moves of each exercise. So drawing circles with your knees. Now you're going to bring the top knee down toward the bottom and then lift the top knee. So you're rotating the hip in the socket. The knee is going down and up. Keep the foot flexed on that leg, and you can make the motion very, very tiny. If there's any popping or clicking in your hip, make the motion a little bit smaller and be sure that that foot is flexed. The knees, again, you're rotating the knee down and then up. Now rub out that top hip. It's a lot of work, so shake out that leg. You can push pause on the video if you need more time to rest, but we're gonna switch and go over to the other side. So for our first move, you're bending up the legs. Make sure your hips are stacked and you're truly on your side. Your top foot is flexed and you're drawing a circle with the knee of that top leg. Just go 3 or 4 times one direction, and then you are going to switch and go the other way. So drawing a circle with that knee and the foot, keeping your hips stacked. You should feel the hip moving in the socket in a circular motion. Our hips are meant to move. Now we're going to rotate the hips in the socket by bringing the top knee down and then up. Top knee down and then up. The foot is flexed on that top leg, and you are really rotating the hip in the socket. Keep breathing. The only thing that's moving is that top leg. The knee goes down and up. And remember, if that was hard, you can make that motion a little smaller. Rub out that top hip. All those muscles are working so hard. So again, if you need to push pause, go ahead and do so, but we're going to move into our next stretch. This might be enough right here. Staggering your legs, where the front knee, the shin, is parallel with the front edge of the yoga mat, and the other shin is parallel with the short edge of your yoga mat. Just stay in this stretch if this is enough, sitting up nice and tall. But if you want a little bit more, turn your body toward that front bent knee and then carefully lift your back knee up off the ground, even if it's just an inch. This is really hard. Now, this is even harder. Try just lifting the foot. It is so much work to just lift the foot. Your back knee stays on the ground, your core is strong, and you're just lifting the foot a tiny, tiny bit. It's so hard. If your back leg couldn't move at all, don't worry, keep practicing and it will get easier and easier. This is a lot of hip rotation. And again, if this feels frustrating, please don't give up. Just keep working on even just this stretch right here. Staggered legs, trying to keep your hips on the ground and sitting up tall. Now, if you want more, be strong and lifted through your core and lift your back knee up off the ground 3 times, up and down. It's a lot of work. You're really using those muscles in new ways. And then try lifting just your foot of that back leg up off the ground. It takes a lot of strength. You might get a foot cramp like I just did, but keep working at it and don't get frustrated. Just know that it's a journey, it's a process, and you'll get stronger and more flexible over time. All right, now we're going to move on to an exercise that is a little easier than that last one, but still definitely challenging. You're coming onto your knee and your hand on one side, and then you're swirling like you're riding a bicycle on that top leg. Let your core be strong and stable, but then you can let your core and your spine move and almost undulate like a swirling kind of undulating motion through your whole body. And like I said, just like everything else, it will get easier with practice. Switch to the other side. Core is strong. Begin just by moving your leg like you're riding a bicycle, moving that hip in the socket, and then you can allow your spine and your whole body to get into it like an undulating wave. This will get easier and easier the more you practice. That's why we're only doing a few reps of each move to keep it simple for now. Just know that as you practice more, it'll get easier. Now, this next move, you're going to come onto your tiptoes, and there are options. You can either just rock forward onto your tiptoes, so you're in a squat and your knees come apart and together as best you can. So see how my spine is flat. I'm not hunched. I'm tipped forward on my tiptoes. Now, if your ankles and your feet are flexible enough, you can come up onto your tippy toes so that your hands are no longer on the ground, and you can play around with your balance as you open and close your knees. But this is a lot, so this is something to work up toward. If you are having your hands on the ground and tipped forward, that's totally fine. Now, carefully, however you can best do it, come up to stand with an exhale. And we're going to move into some standing exercises, unlocking our pelvis in different ways, showing you all the different ways your pelvis can move, such as forward and back. So your pelvis can move forward and back, forward and back. Breathe with this, just rocking your pelvis forward and back. Really get into it. Really go forward and really go back. Your pelvis is moving, your spine is moving, your knees are bent. Your whole body is connected, so you're getting a lot of mobility everywhere. Just play around with this forward and back motion and breathe. Different position here, forward and back. Your hip points go forward and then they go back. Now we're going to go side to side. So reach the hips one direction and then the other, side to side. Keep going to the right and the left with your hips, straight to the right and straight to the left. And breathe with this. I like to think of my hips like sliding along a rail, sliding to one side and then sliding along a rail to the other side, sliding the pelvis along a rail. Now we're going to twist. So your pelvis, it's like it's twisting along an axis of rotation. Your pelvis is twisting to the right and the left, keeping your shoulders fairly still. It's really your pelvis that's twisting to the right and to the left. Now you can try it with your knees straight versus your knees bent and see what you like better. Straight knees, bent knees. You're going to probably find a little more mobility when your knees are a little bit bent. Twisting along an axis. It's like one hip is going forward and then the other hip goes forward. Keep going. Now, we are going to move into some very slow, broken down hip circles. So go forward, to the back, and to the side with your hips, and then swirl it out. Now notice, my knees are a little bit bent. You can definitely try hip circles with your legs straight, but I like them bent. Now go the other way with your hip circles. You get a little more mobility at your hips when your knees are bent. So circling the other way. And now make the hip circles bigger. Notice that as you make those circles bigger, you can straighten your legs, especially as you go forward with your shoulders. Now go the other way with your hip circles, swirling your hips around. Your shoulders can move for this big mobility hip circle. Now we're going to try straight leg hip circles just to see how it feels. Try to keep your shoulders very still as your legs are straight and you are circling around, and then go the other way. So knees are not bent, they are straight. You feel very prim and proper and lifted and tall with this type of hip circle. Now let's really bend our knees and make these circles really juicy and kind of like you're stirring a pot with your hips. Knees are strongly bent. Go the other way. Feel the difference in mobility. One's not right, one's not wrong. It's just people tend to have their knees bent because you do get more mobility. Now, your feet are going to be parallel like they're on two railroad tracks. Inhale all your nice and tall, exhale all your air out and fold over your front leg. This is a hamstring stretch. I want you to feel it all through the back of the leg. And for this final stretch, you're stretching your hamstrings, but I also want you to feel the hip moving in the socket as you do what I'm going to show next, which is you turn your body so that you're turning toward the middle, turning toward that back leg, and then going forward. Notice how you're moving above your hip in the hip joint. Feel how you're actually mobilizing your hip joint from above in this stretch. So you're keeping the front leg straight, but you are turning your body. Now bend that front leg and come up to stand, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So legs are parallel. like 2 railroad tracks. One leg is forward, the other leg is back. Exhale all your air out, and you're in a nice hamstring stretch, supported on your thigh with your hands. Just hold it, feeling the stretch in the back of that front leg. Your spine is straight. Your sitting bones are shining back behind you. Keep that back straight. Your front knee can be slightly bent if it feels like too much. And then you're just going to rotate your body toward the middle, or toward that back leg is another way to think of it. So you're mobilizing your hip in the hip joint by what you're doing from above. Turning your upper body and moving the hip in the hip joint. Bend that front leg and come up to stand. All right, shake out the legs. That was amazing. You did such a great job. It moved fast. It moved quickly. So if that was a lot, if that felt like a lot of work, then definitely practice. Try again. Come on back. You can always push pause on the video, and be sure to check out the video notes for more ways we can work together. Subscribe to my channel so you never miss a new video. And remember, eat clean, move every day, and you will shine brighter. See you later.